All right. I'm testing out a new setup for today with my lives. I've got my phone up here for Facebook, Instagram down here on my iPad, and notes on my computer to make sure I don't leave out any fun or important information. I hope everyone is doing well. We are in week 4 of the quarantine. So I hope you guys are staying sane, staying healthy, taking care of yourselves and your little babies. Before we jump in case I have anybody new here, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Megan Robert. I am owner of After the Stork. I'm a child sleep coach, I'm a postpartum doula, and I am a former nanny. I've worked with kids for a very long time and families specifically for a while. So what I do, my main focus is to help families who have children who are either struggling to sleep or to help families that are wanting to be proactive. So I help you by hearing about your situation, hearing about the age of your child, your parenting philosophies, your preferences, and then I create a sleep plan for you. We have a consultation, and then I create a sleep plan based on your preferences and what we discuss in that consultation, and then I support you and guide you as you implement your plan. I support you virtually. You do not need to be in the same town as me, and now is a great time to be sleep training if your child is struggling because you're at home, so why not help your child get on to a better schedule and help them get the rest that they need. If you would like to see a step-by-step process about what working with me looks like, you can go to afterthestorksleep.com/what is entailed. Now, before I begin, I want to give a quick disclaimer per usual. I am not a medical professional. I help families from a behavioral perspective. These videos are for educational and informational purposes only. They are meant to promote the general understanding of child sleep for you parents and for anyone who works with younger children. The information contained within these videos and the resources available to download are not intended as and shall not be understood or construed as medical advice or substitute of medical advice. For medical issues or concerns, please consult your pediatrician or a healthcare provider. If your child snores or mouth breathes, reach out to your pediatrician, an ENT, a sleep specialist to check to make sure that there are no underlying medical issues that might be hindering your child's sleep. Now that we've got all that out of the way, let's hop into the fun stuff. So my first segment of Facebook Lives or Instagram Lives now were all about the 5 elements of healthy sleep habits. And now we are talking about sleep science so that you can understand why those elements are important and understand your child better. So what I'm calling this segment is Understanding Sleep to Better Understand Your Child. And throughout this segment, I'm referring to several different books, but the main one that I use will be Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. He is a sleep specialist. He's done a lot of research, looked at other research that's been done. Last week, we talked specifically about sleep cycles and the non-REM state of sleep. Now, today, we're going to talk about one of my favorites, which is REM sleep. So, like I mentioned last week, REM sleep is that rapid eye movement. It's often referred to as dream sleep or as active state. So what's going on is the brain waves are very active and they look very similar to when we are awake. However, it is not the same. So as we begin sleep, we go directly into non-REM sleep. We first start with that deeper sleep. After we go through a couple cycles of that, we then experience REM sleep. And sleep for a child looks a little bit different for a mature child or an adult. So we're going to talk specifically about the characteristics of REM sleep, what it looks like through development, and how that develops over time, and what are the purposes of REM sleep. Again, one of my favorite topics. It's pretty fascinating. So after 1 or 2 periods of non-REM cycle at night, you'll go into REM sleep. And then as you get closer to morning, your sleep cycles are going to shift from non-REM, consisting mostly of non-REM, to consisting more and more of REM sleep and non-REM fading off. So our sleep cycles are consistently about the same length. For younger children, it's about 40 to 50 minutes. As children get older and as an adult, it reaches about 90 minutes. At the beginning of night, it's mostly that deep sleep, but the closer we get to the morning, again, becomes more and more REM sleep. So those last hours of sleep in the morning are very important for both children and for you as an adult. So making sure that you get that rich REM sleep is very important. Now, some of the characteristics of REM sleep are that you are going to, or your child is going to be breathing irregularly. It's going to have a heart rate that's irregular. So we see this a lot in newborns, and you'll understand more in a little bit when we discuss the purpose and a little bit more of the characteristics. But you will see an irregular heart rate and irregular breathing. Body temperature, the regulation system is impaired. So unlike non-REM sleep, we might see some sweating or shivering, and REM sleep, we see none of that because the temperature regulation system is impaired. But we do see the temperature in your brain increasing. It is also during this time that we use up more oxygen, we expend more energy, and we notice that there's more blood flow to the brain. Brain waves become very busy. Like I said, they look almost identical to being awake, however, they are not. Now, there is one important thing that happens during this state. Because our brain is acting as if it is awake, it is important that we are not moving, we are not acting out our dreams. So we have what's called an inhibitory system that blockades any movement. So when we reach REM state, what happens is nerve impulses that would normally go down your spine and out to your arms or your legs to make you move, they are blocked. So our voluntary muscles are then limp. They have hardly any tone to them. However, occasionally there will be strong signals that actually do cause like our hands to twitch or our legs to twitch or facial expressions. Now, this inhibitory system does not develop until about 6 to 12 months of age. So when your newborn baby is sleeping, you are going to see more twitching, more movement, because they do not yet have this system that prevents them from moving during that REM sleep. So they might kick their legs, they might move their arms, they might make noises. I don't know if you remember or if you have a newborn now, but newborns are so noisy. And part of that reason is because during REM state, their body is not preventing them from making movement. So that develops again around 6 to 12 months of age, that inhibitory system. Now, this is one of my favorite parts about REM sleep, like one of my favorite things about sleep science in general. It's the development of REM sleep. So we're going to talk about how that develops in utero before a baby is even born. If you remember last week, I talked about how as adults, our sleep cycles consist of, our total amount of sleep consists of about 20 to 25% of non-REM sleep, whereas 20 to 25% of REM sleep. So non-REM sleep is what takes over a majority of our sleep. We are not experiencing REM sleep as much as a newborn child. But if you remember me stating that this develops over time, so this is not the case right at the beginning. Prior to birth, a fetus spends a majority of its time in a sleep-like state. So you know how a mother might say that she felt the baby kick, that the baby's responding to something you said or something you did. This is actually not generally true because in the second trimester, a baby has the ability to start producing non-REM and REM sleep. However, this inhibitory system that I talked about is not yet developed, and so it does not prevent a child from moving when they are in the REM sleep state. A fetus will act out any of their motor movements when there are spurts of heavy brainwave. So brainwaves can still trigger their legs to kick, their arms to move, and then that's when a mother will want you to feel her stomach, or she feels her baby kicking inside, is because of involuntary movement due to not having that mechanism that blocks that movement. It is around the second trimester, the end of the second trimester, that your child is going to experience a total of, on average, 6 hours of non-REM sleep throughout a 24-hour period, 6 hours of REM sleep, the dream state, and 12 hours of something that is not considered REM or non-REM sleep. However, we do know that it is not a wakeful state. So it isn't until the third trimester that your baby actually experiences a wakeful state. And even then, it's surprising sometimes to know that your child is not awake, a fetus is not awake, but only 2 to 3 hours during that time. So that wakefulness does not start to occur until after your child is born, and a majority of the time spent in utero is sleep state. Now, in the last 2 weeks of pregnancy, REM sleep starts to take over about 9 hours of a 24-hour period for your child's sleep state. So the way that the brain waves look, it is during that REM sleep. And you'll start to understand when we talk about the purpose here in a bit of REM sleep, why that would be for a newborn or a developing child versus an older child who's more developed. In the last week before birth, an infant reaches an all-time high of REM sleep. 12 hours of a 24-hour period. It is within this last week prior to birth that a child experiences 12 hours of REM sleep. It is the most that an individual will ever experience within a 24-hour period in their entire life. Now, that starts to taper off once a baby is born, and the ratio of non-REM to REM sleep is about 50 to 50, so 50% deep sleep, 50% dream state for children until they are about 6 months of age. At around 6 months of age, REM sleep starts to taper off, and non-REM sleep starts to take over more of the sleep cycles. Around 5 years of age, about 30% of an entire total amount of sleep over a 24-hour period is REM sleep. So it drops from being 12 hours within a day to being only 50% of total sleep to being only 30. And by the time they're teenagers, the later teenager stage to a mid-adult life, it then tapers down to about 20 to 25% of sleep. Now we're going to dive into the purpose of REM, and that's going to help you better understand why it's so important for children to experience this REM sleep so much in those early phases. Now, last week I talked about how non-REM's main purpose is to remove unnecessary neural connections within the brain. So during non-REM sleep, the brain is cleaning up, it's moving short-term memory to a part in your brain to store long-term memory, clearing up that space so that when you're awake, when your child's awake, they can absorb more new information and actually take it in instead of it just kind of being absorbed but not really saved anywhere or not being remembered. So with non-REM, it helps to be able to retain information during the day. However, with REM sleep, it does the opposite. Early in life, we call it synaptogenesis. This is when the brain develops and matures. So REM sleep helps to stimulate growth of neural pathways all over the brain. And then at the end of those neural pathways, it creates synaptic terminals. These synaptic terminals are connecting ends that allow those pathways to communicate with one another. Now, the author of the book I mentioned, Why We Sleep, Matthew Walker, he uses a fantastic analogy of the purpose of REM sleep for a younger child. So imagine an internet service provider. An internet service provider will populate your neighborhood with network cables that allow you to have high-speed internet, that allow you to have a high degree of connectivity and bandwidth. It's the same with REM sleep for your brain. So REM sleep for a newborn is forming all of these networks throughout the brain that can possibly be used in the future. And then those networks will then be used in the future to allow thoughts, memories, feelings, decision-making, actions, how to best make those decisions. So REM sleep is super, super important for the very beginning of a child's life in order to set them up in the future because it contributes so much to their brain development and maturation. Now, throughout life, we still experience REM sleep. However, it's not necessarily developing the brain like it does for a newborn. Instead, the REM sleep is helping to strengthen neural connections strengthen those neural connections in our brain. It also helps for fine-tuning and recalibrating our emotional circuits. So this allows for complex emotional processing. This means it allows us to experience multiple emotions. It allows us to regulate those emotions. And then it allows us to recognize and shape the emotions of others. So REM sleep is very important. And I'm sure if you work with someone who is a little bit irritable, or maybe your toddler or your child is irritable throughout the day, perhaps they're not getting enough REM sleep to help them regulate their emotions. This is why naps are so important, and we will talk more about that next week when we discuss circadian rhythm and how this all comes together. But naps are so important because your child is not yet able to go an entire day without sleeping, and they need that sleep in order to get that REM sleep to help them regulate their emotions. Now, when we're able to regulate our emotions, we're able to make better decisions. Along with this REM sleep, with it helping with the emotional processing, it also increases our ability to navigate socio-emotional signals. Socio-emotional signals. This means recognizing facial expressions. This means understanding bodily gestures from other people. This means recognizing the behavior of a group of people and what it means. This helps us to recognize and to comprehend in order to make the best decisions and do the best actions, to make intelligent decisions, to act on things intelligently instead of just reacting. This ability to regulate emotions and to understand and comprehend what's going on with others is heavily reliable on sufficient REM sleep every day and every night. So for your child, it is really important that your child is getting this sleep so that they can learn, that they can read what's going on with other people, they can regulate their emotions so that they can, start to be part of this society and other communities. Something that is interesting that's been found in studies where they have either blocked REM sleep or REM sleep has been disrupted, it's been abnormal. What they notice is that these mammals, when their REM sleep is reduced or blocked as a newborn, when they are an adult, they are socially abnormal. They are awkward. They want to stay away. They want to stay to themselves. So we have seen this in studies of animals. Obviously, we can't do this with humans because that would be unethical. But for humans specifically, there has been a correlation between autism and REM sleep abnormalities. This, again, it is a correlation. They do not know yet if there is any specific causality one way or the other. So meaning we don't know if lack of REM sleep causes autism, or if what characteristic of autism is to have an abnormal sleep patterns. But there has been this connection. There has also been this connection with mothers who heavily drank alcohol during pregnancy. Alcohol is a suppressor of REM sleep. And so when we drink alcohol, it prevents us from having that good REM sleep that we need. If you're pregnant or if you're breastfeeding, that then goes into the child, and that can slow down their REM sleep and prevent them from having as much. So a parent who is heavily drinks alcohol during pregnancy, there has been a correlation as well for children to have those autistic characteristics as they grow up, when we know that the mother drank a lot of alcohol during pregnancy. Another purpose of REM sleep is that it helps to fuel creativity. What REM sleep does is it allows new memories to be combined with all the memories of our entire life, with everything that's happened to us. And so by creating these new networks within our brain, we wake up the next day and we have solutions to problems that we had before. We also can then create new thoughts, new ideas. So this helps to fuel creativity. So it helps fuel creativity. It helps to regulate emotions. It helps to understand the facial expressions, socio-emotional processing with other people. Now, that was all I have for REM sleep. Excuse me. REM sleep, again, one of my favorite sleep topics. But it all really is one of my favorite sleep topics. But do you see how when you understand sleep, you can understand your child better? So if your child is not napping well or not sleeping or waking early in the morning, because during REM sleep we more easily awaken and there is more REM sleep early in the morning, so that can cause a child to rise early if they are not able to sleep well throughout the night and transition back to sleep on their own. How this can affect your child. If they're not napping when they need to, they're not getting the type of sleep that they need in order to help regulate their emotions throughout the day when they are awake. If they're not able to transition between sleep cycles, they're more likely to wake up frequently throughout the night when they've reached that light sleep phase, and they're more likely to wake up early in the morning. Now, I mentioned this last week, but a reminder that during REM sleep, we hear what's going on in the outside world. During non-REM sleep, the deep sleep, we are not aware of our surroundings. However, when we reach the REM sleep part of sleep cycles, we are more easily awakened. This is why you experience those more frequent awakenings earlier into the morning than you do right at the beginning of night. Now, do I have any questions from anybody regarding how this, what this has to do with your naps or bedtime? Any questions? While I wait for some questions, possibly. Next week's topic, we are going to move into one of the regulatory systems that affects sleep, and that is going to be the circadian rhythm. We're going to talk about how the circadian rhythm and what we've been talking about with sleep cycles, how those can affect naps. So depending on how long it takes, again, I try to keep these videos around 20 minutes. So I'm going to talk about naps and the circadian rhythm, possibly all next week, possibly into the next 2 weeks, depending on how long, how much information I want to provide you and how long it will take to get that across. I hope that you guys are finding these videos helpful. Again, the purpose of them is to help you understand sleep so that you can better understand your child. If you are struggling with your child's sleep, excuse me, if you are struggling with your child's sleep, I have a couple options for you if you would like guidance. One, I provide one-on-one support. So if you want, you can download my document afterthestorksleep.com/what is entailed to see my step-by-step process, what working together with me would look like. And I help families virtually. So I help people who are all over. I do not have to come to your house to know what's going on. I do not have to come to your house to help you out. I help most people virtually, even people who live in the same town as me. Another way is I am doing a child sleep plan webinar on April 17th. I'm very excited about this. I hope we have a good turnout. You can find information. I've got an event page on my Facebook page for this, and I've got the link in my bio on my Instagram page. So it's going to be a webinar that's basically like a one-on-one consultation. However, it's for a group of people so that the price can come down and I can have a couple different options for you for level of support. And then after the consultation, we will then have 2 weeks of a Facebook group where you guys can form community. I will be able to support you. I'll be checking in daily, and you'll also have the option of having one-on-one support during that time. I hope you guys found this information valuable. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, send me a direct message, book a discovery call, whatever you choose to do. Hope you guys have a great Tuesday. I will see you next week at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.